the reason that people are not latching on to the conservative movement is you look at what happened in 2010. In that Tea Party wave, those people got elected on a very strong set of ideals.
Daniel, right off the bat, man, we were texting back and forth November the 6th as the election results were coming in, and your thoughts?
Wow. I think when we were talking about it, we were swapping messages specifically about the Harris County bloodbath. I mean, that was yikes. And then, these seats in the Texas House that were lost. I think there's a lot of takeaways, and I know people are going to be analyzing this particular election for a while, but I'm kind of in a different position than I think a lot of folks in relation to this, and it's this. There's a lot of folks that are focusing on, I heard the conversation previously about Paul Simpson, and I agree that he probably, if he really wanted to hold on to some positions there in Harris County, he probably should have prepared better. But this is an effect of the trickle down from these federal races. The straight ticket voting. I mean, a lot of these things spilled over. So there's no way you can convince me. We'll take somebody like Matt Rinaldi. Okay, there's no way that you can convince me that Matt Rinaldi lost to who Matt Rinaldi lost to. Okay, in the sense that people consciously went to the polls and pulled the lever for that particular person. There was just a lot of spillover, and this election became a proxy for a lot of things. Anti-establishment sentiment, obviously anti-Republican sentiment, anti-Trump sentiment, and it manifested in a lot of this straight ticket stuff. So, when you push so many people, so many voters off the sidelines into the polls, and you do a job of focusing them on a top of the ballot candidate, which I can't even stand the fact that the federal races are at the top of the ballot. But when you focus all that effort and you pump all that money into it, then this is the kind of thing that you get.
And then when you talk about the straight ticket voting, to me, breaking down the numbers, the most astonishing to me was that the Democrats increased their total voter turnout, their total votes cast, by 90% since 2010. By 90%. The Republicans from 2010 have increased their numbers by 45, but the Democrats 90% increase since 2010. The 2010 election, that was a seminal moment, and then 2012 for all of us, Stampede 2012 here in Texas. 2010 was the first real Tea Party election, and it gave the Republicans under the Pink Dome a supermajority in the House, a majority that they hold even to this day, seriously damaged after November the 6th. But when you talk about the straight ticket voting and the impact of top of the ballot, the trickle down, very little undervote, it's devastating, and it came up to bite the Republicans statewide under the Pink Dome this time around. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly this, and I hate this fact, but facts are facts. I mean, this was an election up and down the ballot that was driven by the federal side of politics, and yet again another reason for Texit. So our politics are not, and our elections are not driven by what's going on in Washington D.C. But that being said, there's a lot of criticism to go around. I mean, and I, I'm not the guy to sit on the sidelines and spitball this stuff because that's not, I don't take it from people, and I don't dish it out either. But here's what the fact is. You mentioned the Tea Party wave in 2010 when it came in. The problem that we have got, and we're beginning to see it right now, is that the pundits and the establishment are saying, well, see, this is indicative of why the Republicans lost, because they're running too far to the right. They're too radical. And people are buying this thing hook, line, and sinker, right? People are like, well, you got to go. I mean, I saw one guy who is a member of or is a staffer at a political organization here in Texas talking about how these guys have got to get in here and focus on bread and butter issues. And I believe it was in the context of talking about Rinaldi's race. But the fact of the matter is that the reason that people are not latching on to the conservative movement is you look at what happened in 2010. In that Tea Party wave, those people got elected on a very strong set of ideals. They said, look, this is what we believe. We believe in limited government, limited taxation, and that's all the way up and down from Governor Abbott to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, all the way down into the Senate and the House. And what we have seen time and time again is they failed to deliver. Texans have said overwhelmingly that they want property tax reform. Okay, so rather than getting a hard push on property tax reform, and even in the last session, I mean, let's be honest, we're 6 years out from that 2010 wave. What did we get? We got a bathroom bill. And while that may be important, the fact of the matter is property tax reform should have been delivered back when those people promised it was going to happen, and it got them into office in the first place. These guys, they go in and they campaign on pushing back against the federal government, but there's been no substantive pushback against the federal government other than the AG's office just rolling down to the courthouse all the time, and filing lawsuits. But there's been nothing substantive out of the Texas House and the Texas Senate that's made it out. So what you've got is you've got people that were enthusiastic in 2010 and even subsequent election cycles who said, we're going to put these people in office because they're going to go out and they're going to seal the deal on these issues. They failed to deliver, and their failure to deliver lost them enthusiasm. People think they're just lying, political establishment hacks. And so what happens is these guys that were energized sit on the sidelines. Then all you do is you come in with a high-profile candidate on the federal side that's going to be at the top of the ballot. You dump tens of millions of dollars into that campaign, and then you let the spillover effect take place. So, that rather than these guys trying to, trip over each other to get to the middle now because they think that's what needs to happen, they need to go recapture the things that got them elected in the first place. And if they failed to deliver in this session, 2020 is going to be extraordinarily ugly for these guys.
Talk with Daniel Miller. Daniel, but still address the vote increase by the Democrats. Address that, because the vote increase was, the total vote increase in Texas was higher than the population growth in Texas since 2010. And you can't underestimate the fact that, yes, Republicans grew their vote totals as well. Okay, their drop off, the total vote total drop off, Republicans 2016, a presidential election cycle, to 2018, a midterm, was something like 200,000 votes or something. It was minuscule, okay? But in the same time period when Republicans were holding on to majorities under the Pink Dome and winning by wide majorities statewide elections, this explosion by the Democratic Party, especially in years 2016 and 2018. Beto got more votes than Obama.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look,
he did more votes than Obama.
Look, the Beto campaign came in and put in place an infrastructure here in Texas that battleground Texas never could get done. And it's because they were able to wrap it around a candidate. You and I have seen this time and time again, where people don't get enthusiastic for a party, but they'll get enthusiastic for a candidate that they feel like they can get behind. You know what? Regardless of the content of what they're campaigning on or what their positions are, we know that people get electrified by particular candidates. They get enamored. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. So what happens is now you've got Beto, who is raising tens of millions of dollars. I mean, it was like $30 million in that last quarter. So I mean, this massive amount of money. He gets this massive amount of money, a large amount of it coming from outside of Texas, which I think is important to note. And with that, and being able to rally around that particular candidate, he was able to put in an infrastructure that the Democrats are fantastic at. I mean, the Democrats have proven from coast to coast, time and time again, is that when they have a candidate and they have the money, they can implement the infrastructure to get out the vote like nobody else. And, I think it was a couple of years ago, they had someone from the RNC show up at the state Republican Executive Committee meeting. And, he broke out a book that we've been using here in the TNM for a while. Here, I'll even hold it up on the camera for you. It's probably backwards, but it's called Groundbreakers. And the book is called, it says How Obama's 2.2 Million Volunteers Transformed Campaigning in America. I don't know, because I think it was during Meckler's tenure. I don't know that anybody there in the state Republican Party actually read the book. I recommend it to anybody because it explains how they took their community organizer philosophy, as much as people want to make fun of it, and threw that into developing a campaign structure that allowed them to push massive numbers of voters, not only into their campaign, but into the polls on election day. It's something that we use here in the TNM as we prepare. We're trying to get and win a referendum on independence. It's one of the things that we work on. And so, the things that are in this book, and it's just one of the books that we look at for resource, but the principles in there are sound regardless of what the ideology is, and that's the scariest part about it. It's kind of like saying, we're going to unilaterally sign a nuclear non-proliferation agreement, but it's okay if the folks on the other side of the fence have nukes. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. When you deny yourself these tools and these tactics and this knowledge because the other guys happen to be using them, when they have something that works as well as it works, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Daniel Miller is president of the Texas Nationalist Movement. He's a Raging Elephants radio contributor. We'll continue to pick his brain on the matters of what happened November 6th. And